welcome to the 2010 NJ Football Draft Lottery. I'm your commissioner, Danny Kiddoo. For the 2010 season, we're going to be adding a couple little stat changes. First one being we're going to be having fractional points. Now, fractional points is helpful for when, say, you have like 78 yards and you really need that 8th point when it comes to your matchup. Now, instead of being stuck with 7 points until you reach the 80th yard, you're going to have 7.8 points. Another stat category we're going to be adding is receptions. Receptions is a very simple stat category, common in fantasy football. Every single time, any running back, wide receiver, tight end, even a quarterback sometimes, whenever they catch a ball, they get rewarded a reception. Now in our league this year, they're going to be worth a half a point. I did this because wide receivers, when you look at the projected points for this year, were valued almost half of what the top running backs are. So what I did was, with this new stat category, this adds new value to some wide receivers. It does help a lot, even though it is only half a point per reception. And now you will be able to not feel bad about drafting a wide receiver too early, because if you drafted a running back at a similar draft position, you'll be getting twice the points. You won't be having to worry about that anymore. Now on the defensive side of things, we made a couple changes as well. First one being is we added the stat category tackle assists. Now tackle assists isn't really a stat that's counted in football because it's actually part of the general tackle stat. For some reason, Yahoo doesn't have a combined tackle solo and tackle assist stat category. So I realized this when I was on ESPN last year looking for one of my players. It said that he had like 15 tackles. I got really excited, then I went onto the league and realized that he only had 10. Now that's a big difference when it's a point per tackle. Now when you look at the general tackle totals for your players on any general highlight show, whether it be ESPN or whatever, you're going to see that now you get every point per tackle or tackle assist. Now, it basically just simplifies things. It also adds several points to some defensive players. So to fix this, we had to prevent overcompensation. So what we did was we reduced sacks from 6 points to 4 points. Interceptions will remain 5 points. Passes defended will remain 1 point. And we also reduced forced fumbles from 6 to 5. Now, I kept forced fumbles more than sacks because it's something that happens less, and I mean, it has a better chance of changing possession on the play. Now, a couple other changes we made within the league was we added 2 positions, both on defense. We added one defensive flex position, which means defensive lineman, linebacker, defensive back, any of those 3 can play in this one flex position. We did this to add more incentive and more of an opportunity to have a good defensive side of the team. Another thing we added was a 4th defensive back spot. Now we did this simply because when you look at defensive backs, except for like Charles Woodson and stuff, they had a fraction of the points that linebackers and the good defensive linemen got. So we added this 4th defensive back spot, not unlike the 3rd wide receiver spot, because it's harder to find good defensive backs. So now the defensive back position will get you as much point production as the linebackers or defensive linemen if you don't make any dumb decisions. Alright, enough of the rambling and the boring stuff. Let's get on to the draft lottery. First, I'd like to introduce the teams. First, I'd like to introduce the new managers and teams into the league. The first person I'd like to introduce is Zoheb Imam. He's going to be managing more Vuvuzelas. I don't know much about him, but what I do know is he's representing the Ravens, which is a plus. He's a great guy and he knows his football, so I'm sure he's going to be a great new addition to the league. Another new one is Zach Scott, managing Great Scott. He's been with a few of us in different leagues. Right now he's in our baseball league in the playoff hunt. He's a good fantasy player. He pays attention. He's going to be representing whatever team Brett Favre is on, which is looking like it's going to be the Vikings. And last but not least, we have my old friend from Sparta, Statler Willens. Statler will be representing the New York Jets. He is in our baseball league as well in the playoff hunt, and he knows his fantasy football, he knows his fantasy sports, whatever it is, and I'm sure he'll be very competitive this year. I'd like to issue a warm welcome back for all of our returning teams, first being $5 Footlongs, managed by Justin Nolan. He joined the league in 2008. He had 12 plays last year. with a 2-11 record, 25 roster moves, and his key players included Carson Palmer, Patrick Willis, Brian Cushing, and Pierre Thomas. He'll be representing the Packers. His former team names include Favre from Retired and Roid Rage. Currently, he's first in the KRHS Baseball Fantasy League. He finished second in the 2008 NBA Fantasy Basketball League, and he was the commissioner this past winter of the KRHS Bowl Pick'em for the College Football Bowls. Next team I'd like to welcome back is the Wet Dream Team, managed by Carmine Ganella. He joined the league last year, finished 11th. He had a 3-9-1 record with only 6 roster moves. Hopefully he'll be a little more active this year. His key players included Brett Favre in his return, Ben Roethlisberger, Roddy White, Chad Ochocinco, and he'll be representing the Dallas Cowboys. He's currently 4th in the baseball league this year. Next is Yellow Switch Palace, managed by my good friend Steve Pano. He joined last year, finished 10th with a 4-8-1 record. He had 14 roster moves. His key players had a good team of Tony Romo, Adrian Peterson, Ricky Williams, Fred Jackson, and Robert Meacham. He represents the New York Giants. He finished in 3rd place last year in the baseball league. He was 3rd place in the NHL Hockey Fantasy League that we had a couple years ago. He finished 2nd in the tournament pick'em this spring for the college tournament, and he is a huge Jim Johnson fan. Next is the Team Uber Ponage. He joined last year with a 8th place showing of 6 and 7, 36 roster moves. His key players include Eli Manning, Randy Moss, Charles Woodson, the best defensive player last year, Jonathan Stewart, Vernon Davis, and Wes Welker. He'll be representing the New England Patriots. He's currently 2nd in the KRHS Baseball Fantasy League. He was 3rd in the 2008 NBA Basketball Fantasy League and 2nd place in the KRHS Baseball League from 2008. Next is my father, Hamburg Skunks. He was a founding member of this league in 2007. Finished 5th place last year, but he was the 2007 champion. Finished 9 and 4 last year with 42 roster moves. Key players included the top fantasy player last year, Chris Johnson, Jason Candle.
Candle is Campbell. Jason Campbell.
Sorry, Jason. Sorry. Matt Ryan, James Harrison, Steve Smith of the Giants, and Marcus Colston. He was the 2008 and 2009 KRHS Baseball champion. He was 3rd place in the KRHS Pick'em College Bowl League this winter as well. Next is Kurt Angle, managed by Matt Berman. He was the founder of this league in 2007. 4th place in 2009 last year, 3rd place in 08. He was the commissioner from 07 to 08. He's my predecessor and kind of my mentor for this as well. 11 and 2 last year, best record for the regular season. 123 roster moves. He led the league in that as well. Had the top quarterback Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Joseph Adai, D'Angelo Williams, and Brandon Marshall. He'll be representing the Washington Redskins, and he is the king of different names. Last year was iCarly. Year before that, he was Medina, Chris Henry, so many other different fantasy names. He was 3rd place in the 2009-2010 NBA Basketball Fantasy League. Next is Delome's Dog Pound. Now, everybody knows this guy as the Great One, but he changed his name for whatever reason. He'll be managed by Steve Ganella. He was a founding member in 2007, the 2008 champion. Finished 3rd last year with a 7 and 6 regular season, 57 roster moves, big trader. Key players included Peyton Manning, Jay Cutler, Reggie Wayne, and Dallas Clark, basically every Colt worth having. And he'll be representing the Cleveland Browns. Other credentials include the 2008-2009 NHL Hockey Champion, 3rd place in the KRHS Baseball League in 2008. He was the commissioner of KRHS Baseball for the beginning of 2008, was the commissioner of NHL Hockey for the beginning of 2008, and he's been the commissioner for NBA Basketball.